Good morning. Thanks for having me, Power to Fly, and I'm really excited about this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get ourselves moved around here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the career journey that's brought you to where you are now?
Sure. So I work at Salesforce, and I am the CTO of a business unit called Heroku. And Heroku is a big business on its own, and it's inside Salesforce, which is a massive Fortune 100 company. I have always been a nerd. The first time I ever wrote code, I was 8 years old at school. It was basic programming, which predates hopefully all of you. And I made this cool little app that had you make a face, you could choose eyes, nose, and mouth and slide them all around. And that experience just spoke to me. And so I've known really since then that I was going to make my career in tech. I am one of those odd people who is doing the job that she trained for. So I have two computer science degrees, and then off I went programming and then managing developers. And I came to Salesforce as an engineering leader, actually in a different area, but I fell in love with Heroku and the productivity it gives to developers. So here I am.
Very, very cool. And honestly, like you're not as far removed as you think. I learned basic, I think I learned it in college. It was like one of my first computer classes.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating and it felt like absolute magic. Like all you did was put some like zeros and ones in the right places, and then all of a sudden you could make something. And I remember thinking like, this is wild. This is so incredibly cool. All right. So obviously, you started in tech from a very young age. What do you think it was about tech that made it a good fit for you? Do you think there was something about your personality or about how you were brought up, or do you think it was just one of those things of like a duck to water, this was it for you?
So my parents were both scientists, and my dad I mean, he's retired now, but he was a college professor in chemistry, and he used to just take me along with him to whatever he was doing. So if he had to go change an air filter on Saturdays, I would come and take apart the box and change the filter and put it back in. And he also ran this research nuclear lab at his campus, and um, again, he gave me free reign, so I felt really comfortable just and we lived in a small town. So I felt very comfortable just riding my bike up to the nuclear reactor, ditching my bike, putting on a radiation meter, and then just roaming free around this research nuclear lab. And so I could kind of peek around and see people making a sample, putting it in a spot, we'll go near the radiation, and then making these cool graphs on really, really Stone Age computers to figure out what they learned. And I just thought everyone worked that way, and that was work. And so, but then I went to high school, where people let you know that all your dreams are horrible. and, but I just always felt like I would be investigating something, and programming felt really great to me because I could take my idea or someone else's idea and do the work to make it real and create a thing. And these days, I only write code for fun, but what I do at work, I have a big team, so I mostly talk like this at work. But I really enjoy when I have these moments when I can go grab a data set from something about our product and then just mine it for a couple of hours on an airplane and try and learn something on my own. So I think I'll probably always be working like that.
I mean, it sounds like a really good way to work. And I very much appreciate that was kind of your introduction too. I remember growing up and thinking that everybody's mom made all of their stuff, Halloween costumes. And if you wanted something that's like, we wanted like princess hats and capes to play with. So my mom was like, all right, sweet. And like 4 days later and, three trips to Goodwill and we had them. And so I know what you mean, where you kind of step back at a certain age and realize like, oh, not everybody grew up like that. Okay. And then it kind of gets you, at least for me, I don't know about you, but like it made me see my upbringing in a slightly different way and realize not only just how lucky I was to have, have exposure to that level of like, not just creativity, but like, we'll try it and see what happens. Cause it's these attitudes that we pick up when we're really small that can sometimes serve us really well throughout the rest of our lives. So I think that's
Yeah, the curiosity is really what I think I learned, and curiosity and familiarity with tech and this feeling like technology is here to help us and you can play with it and see what it can do. Yeah, parents can give their kids these amazing gifts.
Heck yes. All right. Now, on your LinkedIn profile, pardon the light stalking, but on your LinkedIn profile, you share 3 values. Could you tell us about those values and what makes them each so important to you?
Yes. And first, I want to say that generally I am skeptical about people who share values in public. So, this story is about at Salesforce, we have this big HR team, and it's always about developing your people to succeed. So, I took this class at work where you map your values, and I thought, boy, I'll take it because I'm here with an open mind, but I'm also skeptical about what I'll actually get at the end of this. And I was very surprised, happily, to discover that the 3 values I landed on are actually exactly me. And so that's why they're on my LinkedIn profile, because as soon as I got to them, I had this aha moment of, oh, of course, these are me. The values are integrity, transparency, honesty, doing the right thing, even when it's hard, very, very important to me. Impact, I only want to do things if they're going to make a difference. And I only want my team to do things if they're going to make a difference for our product. And so impact is really important to me when we're prioritizing work or trying to decide what's the next project we'll take on. So integrity, impact, and my third value is joy. And this one, I just feel like is me. I feel like everyone in my industry, no matter their role or seniority level, is living the dream. And so there is really no reason, in my opinion, to be frustrated or sad at work. We're doing something amazing. And so I also feel like happiness and joy and getting to know people in the work environment makes work special, especially in COVID. I mean, I joined Salesforce in 2020 in the beginning of COVID. And so I poured my heart and soul into this webcam every day, trying to make that human connection when we were all isolated in our homes. And so I found that joy and telling stupid dad jokes and asking my team in the staff meeting the same question and have them all go around and answer really brought the team together at a time when we were all so separate. So integrity, impact, and joy, those are my values. And those are exactly me actually at home and at work.
I think that's wonderful. And I love that joy is one of those values. I'm a big believer in you find what you're looking for. And so if you're looking for reasons to be annoyed, believe me, y'all, I'm really good at finding them. But I do think that, you kind of find what you're looking for. And so I choose to find joy in a lot of things in life, because if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And so I very much appreciate when other people value this, because it's very easily kind of, I don't know, people refer to it in kind of a pejorative manner, like, oh yeah, you want to have fun. No, I just want things to be done joyfully. I want to care about what I'm doing. I want to find something fun that's fun about it that can help me through the tough days. All right, let's take a step back here. We've talked about your values. Why do you think it's important for LGBTQ members to identify their values, and how do you think that translates into their professional lives?
I have never heard the French pronunciation before, so A plus, Meg.
I stole it. It's not mine, but
it's really, really great. I'm an old queer person. I stay at home a lot, and I've missed that lovely new phrasing. So we've been talking about joy, and I feel like my work is fulfilling. It's deeply fulfilling to me, and I want everyone to have that experience at work. And so I really found a place in Salesforce that aligned with my values. Even when I didn't really know what they were, I just knew them in my heart. Salesforce is the place that I feel like really sees people as humans and really encourages us to talk about our individual experiences. I feel like I can be myself, my authentic self at work, and that makes me a much more effective leader than if I was trying to play a character at work and be myself at home, especially since I work from home and my teenagers barge right into my office. So if I'm playing a character, they know. um, so I think finding an employer whose values are compatible with the way you want to live is really important. And do you remember when Mike Pence was the governor of Indiana, and um, he was he and his administration were threatening legislation that really impacted a lot of people negatively. I didn't know anything about Salesforce at this more than 10 years ago, I think. And Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, stood up and said, "Oh, I see what's happening here. I'm very happy to not build my skyscraper and relocate all of my people who want to leave on the company dime to a place where they feel more comfortable and they'll be more productive working." That's a great example of why I like, as a queer person, and I wasn't even an employee, I felt very protected because I knew that somebody important shared my values. And so I think finding a workplace as a queer person that wants to individually protect you and have you thrive and help you along your life journey is really important. It's very important to me. And I also think that I travel a ton for my work, and I am an advisor to the queer group at Salesforce, which is called Outforce. Everything at Salesforce ends with force. And as I've been traveling to India quite a bit lately, and I've been working with the leaders of Outforce, the LGBTQ group in India, and they have been teaching me how the values queer people have are very different around the world. And I guess I knew that abstractly, but to sit with a team trying to make a difference in a big office, in a place culturally that is not super accepting, where people don't feel like being out, our workplace is a safe environment for people to be out. And so I guess that's also a vow that shows up for me too as something very important at work, to see that in a culture where being queer is not a thing you do openly, you at work, there is a safe place for you and a way to build community.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's also one of those things that once you are able to step outside your bubble a little bit and you can see what the world is like for others, a lot of times it's not that it puts your problems in perspective, right? Everybody's problems are still their problems. But it kind of goes to show maybe which things in your life you've been taking for granted, and kind of can highlight like, oh yeah, not only could it be worse, but like there are absolutely a million different ways to live in this world, and a lot of people are not free to do it exactly the way they want to. And the different degrees to which people are not able to bring their full selves to work, to their families, to their social structures, whatever it is, it impedes us. It impedes us as people, not just as employees. And so I very much appreciate that kind of mindset of, we need to be making things better for everyone, but that is going to mean different things to different people. I think we talked slightly about what that is like, what that situation is like to be working with a global company in an area where it's not necessarily safe for queer people in that, like in that entire country. I mean, let's look at America here. It's probably kind of the same issues, unfortunately, but it is one of those things that you kind of, it gives you a different perspective, right? It gives you a little bit different lens to look through.
I do a lot of smuggling of queer swag into countries where if it was shipped, if the customs might drop it or lose it. But if I put it in my suitcase, then I could swag the Outforce group in country. And I'm very happy to do that every single time I travel. And I also feel like we have a long ways to go internationally. And so I just feel like it's my job to help.
Heck yeah, I love this. Okay, let's talk about impact. Obviously, it's something that's very important to you, both in a personal sense as well as in a professional sense. What impact do you think that you've had as a queer leader as a queer leader at the #1 AI CRM?
I get to use money budget to impact diversity in my team. So that's one that I really like. For example, when I am hiring, and I am hiring now, and my business unit Heroku is hiring, and Salesforce is hiring. When I am hiring, I will often, with my own budget at work, pay to list my job listings where I know diverse communities hang out. So these big companies, when they recruit, are recruiting basically on their brand. And so they're trying to pull diverse folks into their environment. And I actually believe strongly we've got to go the other way. I get to use money to list on Squad Jobs, for example, which is a queer job board that Lesbians Who Tech runs. And Black in Tech job boards and Hispanic in Tech job boards. And I find I can move the numbers, and my team is much more diverse than the average team at Salesforce. And I think it is because we go where diverse leaders in tech hang out. We go to them rather than hoping that they pull to Salesforce. So creating a diverse team using money to improve diversity is really important. I mean, that's what being a budget owner is all about. Inside Salesforce, we have programs for young professionals who come from underrepresented backgrounds. And I have always signed up to mentor. So I feel like I have all the privilege and open doors that I will probably ever get in my career. So it is my job to find the young people and bring them with me and show them what it looks like to have my job, so they see themselves up the corporate ladder. And I get a lot of personal reward and joy from helping someone transition from undergraduate or grad school into the workplace and helping them feel comfortable. So I think that's impact. So changing the diversity numbers which by the way, I've been saying numbers, and that's really not the goal. The goal is a lot of voices, and the goal is better teams and better products. I also want, and then doing mentoring one-on-one to individually impact positively the careers of young folks from diverse backgrounds. And then integrity and joy values, those are all about creating a safe work environment. And I strongly believe that when people feel safe at work, they take the right business risks, and they're more productive, and they do things as a team, and it naturally shifts from your individual contribution to your team's contribution. And I really feel like that trickles down. So if I am behaving that way at work, my team and my leaders will pick that up and behave that way also. And then I think individually at Salesforce, right? The business impact that Salesforce makes for queer professionals is we have this incredible array of benefits. I mean, transition benefits and queer affirming healthcare benefits, and these amazing communities like Outforce for queer folks. And we have like 25 other of these employee research groups. For example, I am also a member of Ocean Force. We advocate for clean oceans. And I'm a member of Bold Force, which is the Black professional group inside Salesforce. And so the other thing Salesforce has that I love is this strong concept of allyship, really encouraging allies to be participating. So our group Outforce that I advise has a ton of members who are allies to the queer community, but who don't feel themselves in the queer community. And I love that cheering on and helping kind of allyship.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more about the allies part of this as well. I am also a member of a lot of groups that I am not within the demographic of, but it's kind of like we talk about at Powerfly all the time. You can't make change when there's only a certain segment of the population that wants it to happen, right? Everybody needs to be on board. And it's like we talk about all the time, like this is our Pride Month ERG, but it doesn't matter if you're not from within the alphabet mafia. Everybody's welcome. You are welcome here. And I think that kind of goes to the same place as trying to make sure that people feel psychologically safe at work. it doesn't just apply to certain groups. You want everyone to feel that way. Certain groups might need different things in place to make them feel safe and make them feel like they can bring their full selves to work. They don't have to be worried about anything from their personal lives, like leaking into that space. But, you know, it is important to kind of assess the needs of these different groups and make sure people have what they need. All right. Now, if we're going to talk about values, we know that equality is a very core value for Salesforce. I don't think it's any secret that most people, most people are aware of this, especially most Salesforce people are. But for you, why do you think that equality matters? And was it a factor when you were determining what your next career move would be?
It was 100% a factor. And so I knew about Mark Benioff through the Indiana thing that we talked about, and I was really impressed. And sometimes I stereotype Mark as the good billionaire. He really puts his money where impact is, and I have seen him individually stand for equality. For example, when Roe v. Wade fell, and I think it was Texas who immediately created a very strong ban on abortion. He and his HR team sent this message saying, all Salesforce employees who are working in Texas who feel like they cannot be their true selves because reproductive rights have changed, we're happy to relocate you to a place near another office. And that I think was magical. And then that idea that we're happy to pay to move you to a place where reproductive, right, if this is something that helps you feel more free, helps you plan your family, we're happy to move you to a nearby another office, is now a thing. And it was a thing before. And I think that's really beautiful. And that's equality in action. And when I'm at work, because again, I am kind of a skeptic, so I am always looking for examples of actions that support the value.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a great example of an action that Salesforce can take. The other action that Salesforce took that I think is really important is very strong trans inclusive benefits. So I think that's amazing. And so the impact of that is people feel comfortable transitioning at work. Trans folks see an affirming workplace. And so they come to Salesforce. So we have, earlier I talked about diversity numbers, and then I said, oh, but numbers are not the goal. We have this Office of Equality who is working across the whole company, but especially working with leaders like me. I mean, I have a budget, I have a large team. They are coming and talking to me about how am I doing with bringing in diverse voices? And then once they're here, working to retain folks by helping them see themselves in the community at work. And I love that. And leaders are held accountable here for making sure that their employee populations are diverse. And I think that's also amazing. The ability to quantify varies greatly by country. There are laws across countries. So we do the best that we can in countries because we're global. But I think it's really amazing that I can see these numbers, understand my trends to goal, and I always trend way above the goal. I can also look at my peer leaders' numbers, so we all understand how we're doing.
Yeah.
And that trickles down. So I have about 20 or 30 hiring managers in my org, and they are the ones who are actually doing the work of crushing those goals. Right. So I feel like I set the tone, but I don't do a lot of direct hiring. I do a lot of indirect hiring. And so I always feel really proud when I have a manager come to me and say, check out the composition of my team now. We found all these talented professionals from all these different backgrounds. And I just know that we're going to build a better product, and we build global products. And so I feel like Salesforce actually does the work of equality, and that matters to me a lot. And so that's why I chose to come and I choose to stay.
I mean, I think it's excellent reasons, because you're right. You want a company that is taking themselves in the right direction, and that is not always accompanied by the best fanfare. It's also, it's not a glamorous thing, you know what I mean? To be like, oh yeah, and we need to change and we need to make sure that our offices really reflect either the communities we serve, our customer base, making sure that like you've got diverse, what am I trying to think of? Diverse like suppliers. There's all kinds of, you know, things that go
Yeah.
into this, but it has to start somewhere and it can't just be words on the page, right? Writing up the mission statement is great, but if you don't actually practice it, then it's not worth the paper it's printed on. So I think that is really important, that it's not just that you're talking the talk, it's that they're walking the walk as well.
Yeah, and as a leader in my position, I can go change a bunch of business process to make sure that it is more equal. I can advocate and be heard. I mean, changing the machine of a corporation to make sure that all the processes enforce equality, it's kind of a thing for me now. Like, I love that. I understand the bureaucracy, and so I can now control it and I can manipulate it for the benefit of equal access to something. Yeah, so that to me, it's like active equality. And the work's not glamorous, but if you can do the work so that some corporate process is more fair, then I'm happy to do that work.
Love that. Okay, we do have one question that came in from the chat that I'd love to address.
Sure. Yeah.
This person says, hey, Gail, I'd love to know, how has becoming a mentor for future queer leaders helped you redefine what people leadership, professional fulfillment, and how to navigate different definitions of what it means to be a queer person for each person? So let's talk about this. As you've mentored future queer leaders, how has that changed how you define leadership, or how you view that professional fulfillment step for people?
Um, so professional fulfillment for me is really about watching young people fly. And I mean, I even tell my kids, like, I am the present, but you are the future. And so my interest is you being really successful so that I can just sit at home and knit and you could go out and crush it in the world. I do feel it's, I can't help. No, I can't. There's no way I cannot be maternal in my answer. Um, I get a lot of, maternal or sort of aging leader kind of value of helping and opening doors. From a leadership point of view, I think it's really important to show my majority colleagues how to do this work. There's not a lot of me at Salesforce, and so often when I bring someone to a meeting, I'll get a Slack message. Hey, you brought this person to the meeting. And I'll say, yep, I'm mentoring a young queer leader. And so getting that, you can sort of use direct action to help other folks understand that this is part of leadership. And I think this last part of the question, how to navigate definitions of what it means to be queer for each people. I am a one big tent kind of a queer person. I am that like Jesse Jackson Rainbow Coalition. I just believe in queer is a really broad term, and anyone who wants to adopt the term, I feel like you're in the fan. And so I also feel like that kind of inclusion is really important because identities change as people change and grow.
You hit something really important there, right? Which is that like your identity changes as you grow. And it's not just the ways that it changes in your personal life, it's the way that it changes in your professional life too. And so I think it is really important, like you're talking about, not just to be inclusive there, but to be visible in that inclusivity, to make it a point, and be like, very, very much loud and proud about the fact that like, this is not a bug, this is a feature. We need to do this more. This is what we want to see in the world. So I love this. Okay, we are out of time, but I didn't want to cut you off while you were talking. Is there anything else that you want to leave people with? If they only remember one thing from today, what do you want them to remember?
Come and work for me at Heroku. I'd love to have you.
Excellent. Excellent response. Thank you so much, Gail.